Everyone in the world relies on clean water for survival, and the people of Iowa City are no exception. Iowa City's water plant supplies water to thousands of residents, drawing from several aquifers and the Iowa River. However, despite this dependence on the river since the city's settlement in 1839, we often fail to realize our connection to this crucial aspect of our environment. In a highly dynamic and technological society, are we truly defined by our environment? And is this a question we still need to ask in 2014 to pursue a sustainable city, campus, and world?
I think people just might not realize the river's here. You have 4 years, and I think college has changed so much in the sense of time that you're here for 4 years and everything goes so much faster. And I think we're all so much more connected that maybe the river was something that they used to kind of bring everyone together, and now that we can all connect, digitally and through mobile phones, it's something that we really have kind of put on the wayside for now.
I think just thinking about it from a drinking water aspect, it's pretty scary, and that's just because as a rower, I do see what goes into the river, and a lot of times I'll see like these plastic food containers, like the ones to go. You'll see a lot of empty Coke bottles, just see a lot of trash that looks like it could have either been directly thrown in or just like a runoff from some other source. And I think that's what is the source of our drinking water is kind of frightening.
Many students express little to no connection to the river, despite its use as our primary water source and our history of spending so much time on the water as a community. The current student stigma that the Iowa River is dirty serves to explain some student disconnect, but certainly doesn't explain all of it. What has changed in the 175 years since our settlement that has transitioned us from resource conscious to resource unaware? And what does that say about our culture?
I know how my parents grew up, and they very much were just outside all the time, doing everything from like sun up till sundown when they could. And they walked to school, they came home from school, were outside constantly. So they have a very, very strong bond with nature. And they definitely raised me that way. So when I was growing up, I kind of had the same lifestyle. But now it's really sad because it's something that I really want to do, but I'm so separated from it because I just feel like I'm on a computer screen or some kind of screen all day long, and it's just really frustrating because to be successful or just to live life, you have to be constantly attached to technology, and it's like a leash.
Especially in a university town, a lot of students are only here for 4 to 5 years, so they don't really think they have a huge impact on their community. Adults, on the other hand, they spend a large amount of time here. They might be more involved in the community versus students just being involved in their university and their daily actions. So I think a lot of the environmentalism in this area particularly comes from adults.
I started by asking, is Iowa City a river town? But it soon became an issue of how our generation is changing and if we like what we see. As technological reach increases across all forms of media, it becomes easy and accessible to be captivated by large-scale environmental problems. However, many important issues needing answers exist on a smaller scale in our own neighborhoods. But by seeing them every day, we become desensitized to the social action opportunities that exist before us. And yet, this kind of action-oriented empowerment is a difficult thing to truly feel, when we hardly understand what it still means to interact with our environment on a basic human level. Living in the most technologically advanced era to date, an unforeseen side effect of this progress emerges. We are under the pretense of being constantly connected, while being more physically distant from our own immediate surroundings than ever before.
People, like when they go outside, people like to make it an event, or they like to make it something that is memorable to them instead of just like personally enjoyable, a private thing, or like people want to go boating on the river and have beer and have their friends and like take a bunch of pictures and have it be this like fun party. And that's great, and I think that's awesome, but I think it's really different from how things used to be, where people would just go out and enjoy themselves and hike, boat, fish, swim, stuff like that. It's hard to find time, and it's hard to find the need to do it because you're just constantly busy, constantly going from one thing to another.
People won't even go outside anymore. You can Google a river on your computer and look at a river all day and not notice that there's one right outside.
And there was no better reminder of what lies in our own backyards than when the Iowa River wreaked havoc on the city back in 2008. Causing over $232 million worth of damage, the 2008 flood displaced many residents and students from their homes. Large-scale flooding that was once an isolated disaster event has increased in frequency over the years, reminding us that as our lives change and alter their course, so do our resources and physical surroundings. 5 short years later, in the summer of 2013, the Iowa River flooded again, causing similar damage and displacement.
To evacuate the house because they thought it was going to come up pretty high. The house is high enough on a hill to where we knew it wasn't going to get up there, so we decided to stay in the house. We were offered different living arrangements within other fraternities around campus, but it was weird not being able to use our driveway. Fortunately, our neighbors allowed us to go in and out of their driveway and come out of the back of the house, which was nice, so we were able to still use our cars. But it definitely was a long 2 weeks where we weren't able to get in and out, and it kind of turned the Pike House into Pike Island, more or less.
So this past summer, I was a stormwater intern with the city of Iowa City, and I got to learn a lot about the river that I didn't know before, and a lot about Iowa City and its history. And I think one of the really cool things was, it was terrible at the time, but when the flood came, it was not nearly as bad as it was supposed to be, but it was really stressful because we had to pull a lot of long hours, and one of the things we had to do is coordinate all the sandbagging for the entire city. So we had to coordinate the arrival of all these volunteers from the area and the sand, and we had to make sure all of them got out to the right places. And it was really cool seeing all these different people come out and help. And there's a lot of stories that I remember, but one of them was these 2 frat guys came from this frat house that's over on the river by the river on Dubuque Street, and they had a pickup truck and a bunch of empty sandbags, and they were just like, yeah, we need to sandbag our house because it might flood, and they're right on the river. And it was just kind of cool because it was one of the least target populations that I would ever expect to come sandbag, volunteer. And it was just cool to see a lot of people that I wouldn't normally expect to come out and give their time. And it made me question if I would have done that if I had been in that situation, or if I would have just volunteered if I wasn't going to be affected by the flood. And I don't think I probably would have even ever thought to come out and help. So.
The apathy students feel towards the Iowa River is not an isolated event. The disconnect we feel towards our surroundings is jarring upon inspection, despite the close living proximity we have maintained to our primary resources. What was once the respected life source of the city has disintegrated into a forgotten relic of a time when our best wireless connections were found in personal interaction, and the extent of our text exposure was what we found in a library book. Social media culture has perpetuated the incredible phenomenon of making it easier to disseminate and promote global problems, while not always highlighting and encouraging community members to lead the less glamorous charge in solving our own local environmental problems.
From a student's perspective, a lot of times it's exclusive because in social media, a lot of it's with friends and events that are happening. There's not really any environmental activism.
I think it really depends. Certain people can get connected to the river, but I think that people have just not been connected to it for so long that it'd be really hard to try and push people back to getting kind of around the river and having a focus in the area.
I think today with the prevalence of social media in our lives, we're really thrown so much information at us constantly every moment of every day. And so if you want to be kind of an impactful human on the earth, I think it's challenging because it's where do you put your efforts when you're bombarded constantly with all these opportunities to have an opinion? And I think it's hard to separate the global from the local. So I really find it more rewarding to do local things, and I think it's really a challenge to find those opportunities where you can actually make a difference or learn something locally rather than globally, because we're just constantly thrown into all these giant global issues, and it's just difficult to break that down and see how you fit in.
The rise of globalization in my generation demands we think broadly, striving to make large and important changes, especially as college students trained to look ahead for the bigger, better, and brighter things. However, these motivators often dull our attention to what tangible problems need solving here, in our own neighborhoods. These situations give us the opportunity to begin practicing environmental consciousness on a small scale, And in the moments we stop to look around, we may find that what lays before us is more fulfilling than what we were seeking.
And the balcony we have right there overlooks the whole park, and I used to go up there and after class and kind of unwind because it was a place in Iowa City that really got you away from, the college drama and everything that was going on downtown. I really enjoyed being able to look out, especially in the fall. It was just a really beautiful place, and I think one of the best pieces of property.
So being an environmental science student is kind of hard because we're thrown, we have to take all the sciences, and we also have to be aware of issues, and it's difficult because you kind of do it because you want to make an impact, or you want to make a difference, or you want to do something that's rewarding to you personally, and that's at least why I do it, and that's why a lot of people I know are studying environmental science or environmental studies. And I think it's tough because I've had a couple jobs in the field, and it's really rewarding after a certain point, but when you start out, it's really frustrating because you come home and you're just like, what am I even doing? How is this helping? And a lot of the problems that you do don't really seem necessarily as big as you want them to be. You want to do these big actions, and what you find is that it's the small little things that fit together, and if everyone else is doing those things, it kind of comes together and you can see what's happening. But it's just difficult because sometimes it doesn't feel like you're making a difference, but you have to convince yourself that you are, or else it doesn't really feel rewarding.
In many ways, the lack of involvement students feel with the Iowa River, despite its crucial role as a resource provider, mirrors deeper societal issues as to what it means to value our environment and engage in rebuilding our communities towards a more sustainable future. Living sustainably comes from practice. Only by starting small can we hope to solve the grave climate issues awaiting us in the not-so-distant future. And there is no better way to practice than to stop, look, and understand what people, resources, problems, and opportunities truly comprise the place you call home. While the increase of transiency in our population makes it more difficult for people to feel a connection to a home space, the sustainability movement opens up a place in our culture to practice this raw truth that we still connect physically even when we don't realize it. It is then not about taking care of the planet as much as it is about taking care of the people you share it with. Pursuing sustainable communities and reclaiming our connection to our environment starts right here, and it starts right now. Where are you?